Hello, everyone. My name is Gideon, and today I'm going to be talking about the perfect economy. Um, Feel free to criticize, it's my opinion. And yes, just like I have my opinion, several other people would have their own opinion. Okay, so um, straight to business. So, three things that we need to have a perfect economy, in my opinion, okay, I'm going to illustrate here, is population, agriculture, and natural resource. Okay, so I'm going to explain each one of them. So population, um, why is population important, right? It's important because when you have the right amount of people, it is you provide an environment for a good market, basically. Because if you have 10 people, it's easy to market to 10 people or find out what they like or what they want versus if it's just two people living in an environment, right? So when you have a market of 100 people, right, within these 100 people, you can decide to focus on healthcare. You can decide to focus on healthcare. There's a market for healthcare. There's a market for agriculture, even though it's listed here. So for food and so agriculture. There's a market for technology. So many things, right? It's because there's so many people. You have so many reach that people you can reach out to, right? And it's important when you talk about population that we also address population density, because if you have this, right, and you have three people living in a space in this area. This is an area, right? And you have three people living in this area. And then you have another space like this, right? And you have the same three people, right? But you see how big the space is. Some people think this is a good thing. Oh, you have all this land, you have all this mass, but not necessarily, because now you can't really protect this. You can't really. It's a liability, because first of all, if you wanted to sell a product to this guy, you have to walk how many kilometers to go meet this guy. If this guy was sick and needed help, then this guy has to walk all the way here to see this guy, right? If this guy was being attacked by a foreigner, right, it would take this guy and this guy a long time to even realize this guy is being attacked, right? So it can be looked at as a good thing when you have all this land, right? But if you don't have the right population, that's the right population density. If you don't have the right population density, right, then it becomes a liability, becomes a problem, right? Because now you have to manage all this, right? And it just becomes a stressful situation, because it's not ideal. And that's where we see falling cities, where people are leaving a certain area and then the city just falls because there is no one to keep it going. So that's that with our population. Now, agriculture, we talked about agriculture already here, right? When you have so many people people want to eat, right? So it's a no-brainer, right? So you can easily go into mass agriculture, right? And there's a lot of profit there. And you also have the population. When you have agriculture, right, you can harness your agriculture to feed other neighboring countries. You can feed yourself. So let's say this country is producing lots of bananas, right? Lots of bananas. So it is easy for them to say, okay, we're going to export our bananas to these guys, right? Because they don't have anything. Because we have so much bananas in here, right? We can easily sell our bananas to this guy. So now by selling the banana, Money comes in here, right? So you have money. So a lot of times it's important to also note that all of these things, right, is what we would supposedly in a good society we back our currency by these things. So whatever currency wherever you are, let's say you're spending the dollar or the naira or euros or cedis, right? The strength of your currency should be determined by how well you're doing in these areas. How good is your agriculture? How much goods do you produce? How much crops do you produce? What's your population like? And people may say, oh, population, what does population have to do with anything? Yes, population is very important because even if you're not doing anything, if these people are so much here, right, and it's so rowdy here, they can decide to go to war for whatever reason that they come up with and go attack. These guys here can decide to come here and attack these guys, right? Because they have more people. So if we were to draw the same amount of land here, right, for this land, they have more people. So now they can decide to say, oh, well, we need to go conquer them, right? There's so much of us here. And, what are they doing over there? That this is, our God-sent land. And we need to, one guy here can stand up and say, God has revealed to me that we need to go conquer these guys. And, they have the manpower, so they can easily go in there and go wage war, right? They can also easily start up businesses because they have the population. Whatever it is that they choose to build, if you look historically, right, those pyramids that we see, right, those pyramids that we see in Egypt, right, they were built by people, right? And it required a lot of manpower to build those pyramids. So when you have the right amount of people in your environment, you can easily build your economy to be stronger, and just the level of growth will be very, very rapid because you have manpower, right? So with population, well, mind you, if you have population and you don't have fertile land, that's a problem. If you have population and you don't have fertile land, that's a problem. So now, a lot of times these people will think about what can we do? How can we manage ourselves if we can't feed ourselves? So the next alternative is, well, do we have salt? Do we have natural resources? So here we look at natural resources: salt, crude oil, gold, diamond, and several other things, minerals like this, right? So now we're talking about natural resources, right? I like to think about it like this. Everybody has something. Everybody has natural resources. However, right, it is easily acquired or is easily harnessed by some people more than others, right? So I like to imagine the earth. I like to imagine the earth like this. And so the earth is a sphere, right? And in the middle of the earth, right, there is natural resources here. There's natural resources everywhere, but in the middle, in the core, this is the core, right? There's the good stuff, the yummy stuff. And I also imagine this earth, think about it like an egg, right? So think about it like an egg, right? In the middle, there's the yolk. There's the yolk, right? So, and that is where you have the most nutrients, right? However, some areas are lucky enough to be with the right vasculature, the right stream. Out of this place, it leaks out to some areas. So some people would have access to this yolk. It's coming out in the surface of the land here, so it's easy. You might be able to get it out here because there's a pool. And this person is lucky to get a stream here from inside coming out here, right? So think about this as an egg, and then this is the yolk, and the yolk is coming out to the surface, to the egg white, right? And now you're like, wow, what's all this? This is so tasty. So everybody is now trying to get that and milk it. Now what happens is, for those who don't have, who aren't so lucky to have access to this inside part of this earth. They can drill. They can decide to drill, right, and go in, with whatever machine and drill into this earth. But the problem is when they drill, it causes some cracks, right? It causes cracks on the earth, and these cracks on the earth can cause earthquake. It can cause a lot of instability on the earth, because the earth needs to be it balances itself, right? So we don't want to tamper or interfere with how the earth and where the earth chooses to, how the earth chooses to run itself. So that's why we have a lot of environmental laws when people are trying to drill or frack the earth to get nutrients. A lot of laws are in place. So you see a lot of countries would rather go to countries where it is out in the open and look for how they can either pay for it or steal it, right? Now historically, a lot of stealing was done, right? Historically, like for instance, the Vikings, they would travel because they had the population, and they would travel all over the world, right, stealing from people who had this and this, right? So these are the three main things that I believe that you need to have the perfect economy. Some countries have two, some countries have just one. I think Brazil was a struggling economy until they invested in the agriculture and palm oil. Now they produce palm oil, and they are doing well. I think they're one of the number one world suppliers of palm oil, right? So having said all this, right, then we have how it is managed. How do we manage this economy, right? So that this is where you have capitalism. This is where you have socialism, and then communism. So you have these three isms: capitalism, socialism, communism, and maybe even more, right? But these are the three main ones. And everybody argues that, depending on your school of thought or your philosophy, some people believe that this is superior to that. And I personally believe that all three are important depending on the time or the situation at play, what's going on, right? So this is a lot of times when you even try to Google and say the perfect economy, right? This is what you see. These arguments on which is better: capitalism, socialism, communism. But what I wanted the purpose of this class is for us to emphasize on this right here: population, agriculture, and natural resources. Because this is the leverage. This is exactly what we need to even have. Because a lot of countries, you think about some Western countries, they don't have anything. It's just populated. And if you look at it, it's a struggling economy, and they don't have anything, and they are living off what has been stolen historically, right? And living off history. And a lot of the economies are doing so well because they invested in slavery, which is also population. They invested in slavery and manpower in the past. So it's important for us to reflect on this, okay? And I'll stop here. Feel free to critique, feel free to like, share, drop your comments.